This is episode 6 of Art, Why I Stuck with a Junkie Jazz Man. In episode 5, Art and I played the Synanon game. The story continues. Getting down. In Synanon, committed couples wishing to get down and permitted to do so made an appointment and were allowed a daytime hour and a half, which lengthened with seniority to 4 hours and then to overnights. Certain apartments in the complex most of us lived in and certain rooms on the upper floors of that old hotel were designated guest rooms. Art brought incense and candles to our first visit to the guest room, a small room and bath in the club. God knows where he got them. He confided in a lot of people. He was close to a lot of women, and everybody wanted to assist him. And somehow, during our lovemaking, one of the pillows landed on the burning incense and started smoldering. And when we finally emerged from our passion and discovered it, we couldn't stop the stubborn, flameless fire. The room was filling with smoke. We couldn't fan it out the windows. Our room faced across the U that formed the rear of the old building. Naked people batting out billows of smoke would definitely be noticed from across the way. And that notice would cost us our guest room privileges for at least a year. Worse, this adventure, if known, would provide scathing, hysterical, humiliating fodder for the riotous games which would follow us for the rest of our lives. We could both imagine the indictments, always made juicier by gross exaggeration. We would hear comic, graphic descriptions of our lovemaking and how, with sexual friction, we'd managed to burn down the Synanon Club, a masterpiece of 1920s California architecture. Movie stars had danced beneath its chandeliers. Presidents and potentates had conversed and relaxed inside its leather armchairs. Now here comes this creaky old has-been saxophone player and his skinny schoolmarm Moll to finally level the place with their freaky fornication. This is a fairly accurate rendering of the kinds of jibes you got in games. I plunged the pillow into the toilet while Art slid the window up a crack, gently waving out tiny gusts of smoke. Then I crammed the soaking pillow into my big bag, the one I'd brought our sheets up in. Because Art had flirted with the guest room scheduler, we'd been given 4 whole hours for our tryst instead of the usual beginner's 90 minutes. And we were able to spend 3 of those hours cleaning up the place. Nobody ever noticed that there was a pillow missing. I dumped it in a trash bin. It's been a lifetime since that love affair began, and it's difficult now to conjure what we were like with each other just at first. At first and ever after, Art was a wonderful lover, intuitive, generous, enthusiastic. His skin was smooth, dry, and a little hotter than anybody else's, and he always smelled good, as if his body made its own perfume. People asked him what cologne he wore. He didn't use cologne in those days. I have a cat now who smells like an expensive leather handbag. Her sister, who eats the same food, doesn't smell like anything. Some creatures are just prettier than the rest of us. Art loved women, and he thought it was important to make them happy. And you could feel that every time he touched you. And over the years, he was consistent in that. The first time Art began to make love to me, he approached me shaking, quaking. It's a tremendous turn on to feel as if your body is the promised land. Our guest room days became the high points of our week. He had me read pornography aloud sometimes. He found the book somewhere. He introduced me to the classics. The Pearl, The Autobiography of a Flea. He was a prude like me and was nauseated by bestiality or violence and turned off by homosexuality and orgies, which he pronounced with a hard G, orgies. He liked a well-written scene in which a heterosexual couple frolicked together in fairly standard ways. We discovered that we both loved Dracula, Bram Stoker's original. So I read that to him too in the guest room. After sex, we talked about ourselves. He'd tell me his adventures about drugs and crime and prison. And he loved to gossip. He told me what was going on. He's been characterized as a narcissist, but his analyses of people and their social, romantic, and emotional predicaments were perceptive, cynical, and compassionate, and almost invariably, they turned out to be correct. I never noticed what other people did. I suppose I was too busy editing my own story from moment to moment. He gave me eyes to see what I'd always wondered about, the real world. He could be a fascinated listener, but refused to hear any of the sexual parts of my story. I finally observed, "You want to believe I was a virgin when you met me." "Yes," he said. So I talked to him about art and literature, spun theories, quoted stuff, made connections. He drank that in and made me feel as if I had something deep to offer him. Sometimes after sex, I sang him to sleep, singing some of the zillion folk songs I'd memorized as a kid. I spent my childhood learning every American and English song I heard or read, tediously picking out on our old upright piano the transcriptions I could find in books. One night, I sang to Art about a battle. Come, all you Texas Rangers, wherever you may be, I'll tell you of some troubles that happened unto me. My name is nothing extra, so that I will not tell. And here's to all you Rangers, I'm sure I wish you well. The first time I sang it, he was near dozing when I finished all the verses, but he murmured, "That was nice. Who wrote it?" I whispered, "Nobody knows. It's a folk song." He said. PD. PD? Public domain, he mumbled, drifting off, giving me my first taste of music business lingo. Art liked sleazy lingerie and found me some somewhere. One day, a dorm mate noticed in my drawer a pair of bikini panties Art had given me. "Those are mine," she squealed. "Where did you get them?" I lied. I said I'd picked them up at the general store, where we residents got all our clothes, a continually renewing source of residents and Square's donated cast-offs. "These are mine. They disappeared." I lied really well and had such a good reputation that I was believed. But I was furious at Art. Turned out he'd snatched them from a dryer in the communal laundry room. I knew I couldn't go into a game and accuse him of stealing, a crime in Synanon punishable by a bald head. They shaved men's heads for serious infractions. Women were made to wear stocking caps. And so we had a contract, me and Art, a secret agreement which cut us off from the group, which I felt endangered my sobriety, my sanity. I hated it. In this case, I'd found out accidentally and confronted him. Ordinarily, he didn't talk about the things he did. He never talked ever to me or anyone else about what he knew about the illegalities other people might be up to. People confided in him because he was a stand-up guy. In his personal rule book, you never ratted on the other criminals. His taciturnity was good for me. Whether he knew it or not, he was protecting his friends from me and protecting me from being in the intolerable position of having to decide whether to speak or keep my mouth shut. During my 3.5 years in Synanon, nobody ever told me anything, and I was content in the belief that everyone I knew was behaving as well as I was. I was shocked years later when old Synanon friends told me about drugs, illicit, unapproved, sex, and other kinds of wickedness they'd sometimes been involved with in those days. Art had known, but still, years later, hadn't told me. Improvisation. I've been in 4 long-term relationships, and the first year or 2 for me has always been a kind of improvisation, trying to find out what works. There's no getting around it. One alters oneself to be part of a couple, especially women, especially initially. At least I have. And then over time, yourself comes seeping back. But by then, your personality has changed somewhat. So, what's important is not the other person after all. It's, do you like the person you become with them? I pitied and despised the cringing drama queen I was with my first brutal husband, whom I married at 17. And the whining basket case I became with Barrett, my smothering second. But the exigencies of my life with art made me like myself from the beginning. I'd been given a head start by the demands Synanon had placed on me and the education I was getting there. Synanon's prescription for us loonies was to try to imagine how an intelligent, practical person would behave in any given situation and then to act as if we were that person. My new and so far semi-synthetic, self-reliant personality was part of what art fell for. Art really wanted a woman with character, and I suddenly had some. And he made it easy for me to give up my rebellion. He had enough of that for both of us. I was mean to him. He liked me that way, and I picked up on it. He didn't want me to be sensitive and neurotic. That was his job. And initially, I could demolish him in games and leave him sputtering while the group, all barking in my wake, attacked him. Then he learned how to play. I wish I could remember the details. I just recall that one afternoon, I leveled an indictment at him, and he used humor while calling my tactics typically feminine, getting the guys on his side, to turn my sharp little arrows right back at me. I sighed as the game reversed its focus onto me. I was dismayed and proud at the same time. He was pleased with himself when I grudgingly praised him afterwards. In time, Art became a great game player, and he did it by briefly, cannily abandoning the bitterness and serious anger he cherished and loved to express, and which got him nowhere. He rose above the id for a change to the level where smart people operate. Women adored Art, and he always seemed to be surrounded by them. On sofas in the alcove of the club or hunched forward intimately at a table by the swimming pool of the apartment complex we all lived in, the clump. He snuggled into their grouped attention with the serene, sleepy look of a child being tucked in. Individual women around him arched their backs, tossed their hair, got witty and suggestive. He was used to it, and I got used to it. His complex moral character didn't let him do more than flirt, and aggressive women frightened him. But one of them, a sub-director there in Santa Monica, kept finding reasons to have little chats with him. When Art complained to her about his dorm, she installed him in a real apartment with just one roommate. She got him special food to eat. He bragged to me about how well this woman cared for him. I got mad and complained to some bigwigs and was permitted to call a game on this subdirector in the executive game room. Just off a rooftop patio in the center of the U in the back of the club, the executive game room was a spacious conference room with encircling leather armchairs. The ocean-facing wall was all French windows, and you could step out on the big rooftop, enclosed on 3 sides by the building's wings, and enjoy the breezes and embracing view, the shushing dark Pacific, and the sky and sunsets, and, around to the right, you saw boring Malibu and softly hilly green Topanga Canyon. The room was sometimes used for other educational purposes, and I remember walking out those doors one day during a class to see those hills and canyons all afire, as they've often been in LA's history. Brilliant orange flames, columns of black smoke. On the day of my game, all the upper echelon of Santa Monica were there. The real director, Jack Hurst, was there, a slim, square-jawed ex-biker with scary ice blue eyes. He was a wicked game player who often wandered across that rooftop, through another set of French doors and into a similar big room that housed the stew, a kind of perpetual open-to-all marathon game, just to listen or to joke around or to gut some poor bastard with his easy evil wit. I'd liked him ever since I, as a trembling newcomer, attempted to talk back to him in my pompous wise-ass way during my first stew. He'd let me off easy, let me score my little point that day. Of course, poor Art was squirming in his chair as we waited to begin. And my rival got the jump on me, attacking me before we'd even really started. She said I was delusional. Art had told her I'd been nauseated a lot lately, and she said I'd implied she was poisoning me. Well, reader, I guess I had said something like that, feeling overwhelmed by her actual power in that place. But how could he expose me like that to her? I excuse him now, understanding his congenital paranoia. He may have suspected she actually was poisoning me. Anyway, at that time, my anger at him turned me cold, more strategic, less emotional than usual. "What?" I snorted, putting a look of astonished hilarity on my face. He said I said, "What?" Everybody laughed. Well, that is Art said you said that she trailed off. Jack asked Art, "Well, did you?" Art said, "Not exactly." I turned to Jack and told him, "It's like this. It's like a 1930s movie. She's Miss Rich Bitch trying to buy his affections with goodies. I'm the poor working girl, and he's." We looked at Art, this tattooed ex-con dope fiend in his 40s. Art's the struggling young musician. The game went wild. Jack, he loved it. He laughed until the tears came. When the hubbub died, I said, "I can't compete with what she has to offer him. She's misusing her position to steal my boyfriend. What kind of role model is she? Of character or class or anything?" This was the kind of question you could legitimately ask in Synanon, and that was the end of her. Art loved me more than ever after this. I was fighting for him from the moral high ground. What she never knew was that Art was a fool for a narrowly defined kind of righteousness, according to which she was behaving very badly, using her material advantages to steal another woman's man. If she was that low, what might she be capable of doing eventually to him? That's how he thought.